as a joke, we would always say if the kids aren't crying on the Saturday when they get picked up, we haven't done our job, because they
Yeah.
you know they make really close friendships, and that's what brings them back the next summer. So
25th anniversary celebration. You had some dignitaries there.
oh, we did. Where to start? So
Kathy
former
Stevens.
Ambassador Kathy Stevens was there. She's a great friend of the village. Also, the first U.S. ambassador, we're told, that actually spoke Korean, the first U.S. ambassador who had a speaking knowledge of Korean, which he, of course, got in the Peace Corps back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And she's been a real strong advocate for us, and of course is active also with the Korea Society and the Asia Society and places like that. So she was there, and then Amy Klobuchar zoomed in with a really excellent pre-recorded message. I mean, her daughter, I think, at least one of her daughter, I don't remember how many kids she has, but she does have at least one child that went to other language villages. She knows the language village as well, and she sort of said all the right things about, what's important and significant about the language village. And then we had Daphne Zur, who's now the dean on the ground and is really leading the program in exciting directions. She has all these amazing, because she also works on K-pop, right? She knows a lot of these dignitaries of the Hallyu world. And so we had this celebrity chef, Yu Su Young, was there cooking for us for a couple days.
Really?
And also, he's going to air his own, I think, two-part series about his time in the village in November. So that's something to look for. And then we sing a lot of his songs in the village. Kim Chang-won, he was there and left behind a really nice painting. He's famous for leaving behind sort of works of calligraphy or painting. And he took one of
Really?
our walls and did this really nice painting.
See
Right.
the activities. You've got all kinds of things. I see a sing-along. I see down by the dock, you have waterside activities. I see kayagum playing.
Yep. Yeah. We have a music program. Yeah.
I see a bundle of Korean snacks.
So yeah, there's a village store. The village store is stocked with Korean snacks and candies, and also camp sort of swag. So the idea is that when the villager comes to the village, even before they arrive, they receive in the mail a village passport. So you can think of it as a grand simulation. So it's like they're going to a foreign country. They arrive at the village on opening day with their passport. They receive a Korean name and identity and a name tag. You have to wear your name tag at all times. So we don't use their English names. They all have a Korean name. And then they deposit all of their US currency with the bank and get Korean currency. So in the village, if they want to buy something during, break time at the village canteen, they got to use Korean one, and they have to use Korean language, etc.
Real Korean money.
Yeah, it's real Korean money. Yeah. So they don't use, US dollars. And so there are all these little things all day long that are meant to incentivize, the use of the target language, and to give kids courage to use the language. So, you will be familiar with Middlebury College, and they're famous for having this, which is for age 18 and above. They're famous for making their students take a pledge, right? That the kids will, they won't use English. We don't believe in that. It doesn't work for under 18. There's nothing draconian. It's not about punishing villagers for using English. It's about encouraging them and incentivizing them to use Korean.
So they'll go into the village store and say, I'd like some of that candy. And the attendant will say, soltang kayo, and they'll
Yeah. And then you have to ask, how much is it? And even just to get money, like, you don't give them much. They deposit all their money at the beginning of the session, and they only give them a few thousand won each time, because you have to go back to the bank and ask for money and tell them how much you want to take out.
And that's all real practice.
Yeah.
I see Taekwondo.
Yeah, we always have a few black belts on staff.
Here I see a teacher with Hangul, basic Hangul. So starting out from the basic rudiments. I see playing the chango drum.
Yep. So, I mean, the depending on whether you're in the 2-week program or the 4-week program, there will be more or less kind of language focused parts of the day. We don't want to call them class because it's not a school, but certainly learning Hangul is part of the process, but it's only a small part of it. And the idea is that you're using different patterns every day, and they're being reinforced in different scenarios and different spaces and places in the village all day long. So, anything you do in a summer camp, we do, the idea is it has to be fun. They have to, at the end of the session, like as a joke, we would always say if the kids aren't crying on the Saturday when they get picked up, we haven't done our job, because they make really close friendships. And that's what brings them back the next summer. So it's not about how much you learn in 2 weeks. It's about whether they come back, the next summer. And it's quite routine every year to give out many 5-year medals. So, villagers who've been there for 5 years straight. And it's also not unusual to have 10-year villagers, who
Wow.
literally attend for 10 summers.
Oh my goodness.
And so the idea is that the goal is, and oftentimes this is hard to get across sometimes to our friends in Korea, who have this very kind of classroom-centered and sort of assessment-centered notion of language learning, that we don't care, how good their spelling is. We don't care how good their endings are. We care if they come back. We care if they become a lifelong learner of Korean. We care if they decide when it's time to go to university that they actually choose a college that actually has a Korean program, and they do. And so that's what we're looking for.
I see a picture of a bunch of kids in the front and family members out. Is this sort of a graduation day or something?
Well, no, so that was the actual dedication ceremony for the 25th anniversary. That was kind of where the dignitaries were.
Oh,
That's not a normal sort of daily activity. We use a lot of drama in the village. Every meal time, there's a meal presentation where, going around in groups, the kids have to get up and present what the meal is using Korean. And then there's skits in the morning that they learn the language for the day, through. So a lot of singing, a lot of drama, a lot of kinetic stuff, a lot of moving, sports.
Do you watch K-pop stories?
We
K-pop
do, except, we do. Of course, we don't, we take their phones away, by the way. They don't get that. They're unplugged in the village. We don't let them have their cell phones. But after lunch every day, they do get to watch a Korean drama for about 45 minutes, because that's when we have our staff meetings. Because you have to have a staff meeting every day, but so you only need 1 or 2 people supervising, while they watch the daily episode, while then everybody else goes and does the staff meeting. Yeah.
Incredible. I see a picture of a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, that was for the dedication. The idea that we're finally, now in our own new space, and the space. Our architect is a really interesting Korean architect based in Seoul.
Very Korean-esque.
And that's exactly right. Esque, ish, right? Because you can't build if you were to do a traditional architecture type thing, it would be outrageously expensive.
Yeah, you can't do a
Hanok. And you can't do Hanok. But the roof lines, and so he said his concept was, we want to create a Korean sense of space, and meld that with North American sort of wood.
The pillars around
the pillars, the roofs. Yeah, it's meant to be a kind of Korean space. Yeah.
Okay, where in the future? What do you need? You say you're halfway in.
We're halfway in, and we've been pretty successful so far with fundraising, but a lot of the funds, not all of them, but the lion's share have come from one source, from one very generous donor, which is, on the one hand great, but on the other hand it's not fair, because we need to spread the pain and and give others a chance to chip in, and it's not fair to ask him to do it all, and so we're definitely looking for other donors now that we've reached this first milestone, to sort of step up and help complete the village.
You've invested, you've obtained about $7 or $8 million so far.
So far it's been about 8 million. Yeah.
And you need how much more?
Well, another 8 or 9 for phase 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let's hope that somebody that watches this video wants to share the pain, as you phrase it.
Well, it's a really good investment. So far, that most of our donors have been based in Korea, and and in fairness, we haven't really devoted much time and energy yet to fundraising in the United States, and that's really, I think, the next step, because we have had a couple generous donations very recently out of the United States, out of California actually, and we're looking to find more support in the States.
Well, I hope this video helps in some small measure for that. And the reason I wanted to do this video was to congratulate you. What you're doing at the village and the whole thing that you're doing is just marvelous, just wonderful. Congratulations. Thanks for
Well,
doing it.
Yeah, you have to come sometime and see it with your own eyes.
I need to. It's not far from here. I'm in
Shouldn't be.
Illinois. People don't realize I'm not in my home studio in Utah. I'm in Illinois. I am at my own Tsuksoge Hosu.
Yeah.
I'm at my extended family's summer cottage for the next few weeks. Well, thanks, Ross. I hope this is helpful to you. And again,
It is. Thank you.
congratulations on your success there.
Thank you so much, and especially for making time.
Thank you. Onward and upward. We'll see you
Okay.
next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.